Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Jorgens from Endeavor4, and with me on the line, I have Kevin Hatt. Thank you for joining us today. It's April 2026, end of the month, and today's webinar is on Microsoft Copilot. There is lots of information to cover today, not only what's new, but a lot of tips and tricks, and we're very lucky to have, I'll do the next slide, Kevin, to have access to Kevin Hatt on our team. Kevin is running our AI practice and working with clients to actively engage, advise, and move through. And I'll let Kevin talk about our four pillars. As we begin, you may notice the Endeavor4 branding. Those that are older legacy clients, we have moved from Endeavor Solutions to a new Endeavor4 branding, representing a number of organizations that come together through past mergers, our CRM practice, ExpressInfo, Cortera, and others that have joined our team. We're talking about Copilot today. Copilot's embedded throughout several systems from Microsoft. And it really is a testament to joining and being part of Team Microsoft. We have a number of clients online that are on Dynamics GP. You can still surround GP with the cloud, complement GP with the cloud, or consider moving to new Business Central cloud-based system or into finance and supply chain management, also Microsoft Dynamics 365. Those that are CRM clients or using both ERP and CRM, Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform all have components that we're really coming towards that common data model, common data layer on Team Microsoft. So if you are using non-Microsoft systems, maybe now's the time to start considering in your long-range plans moving towards a common Microsoft platform. So with that said, Kevin, I'll transition it over to you and let you start with the agenda. I'm here for question and answers. So if anyone wants to use the Q&A part within Teams or the chat, you may do so. And you can see over on the left side, we're actually going to keep it in user view. And you can see some dark blue parts within Kevin's presentation. We'll have some stops there to answer questions. And I'll be your moderator and hopefully curating the content as we go. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited to see where we're going. And yes, we will be doing a recording of this and sharing it tomorrow, as well as an AI recap and tips and tricks list to all those that attended today.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Scott. Welcome to everybody. I appreciate your hour. Hopefully you're all getting a bite to eat here. And I'm just really excited to be talking about AI today. It's been an incredible 3 years and a couple of months since mainstream AI kind of came on. I've had the good fortune to be working with some really smart people and getting a chance to learn this and use this both internally with Endeavor4, but also with a lot of our clients. It's a topic that's very near and dear to me right now. So what we want to cover today is we're going to do just a brief endeavor about Endeavor4, our AI and advisory services. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about what is Copilot and what is not Copilot. The big question then on everybody's mind these days is the security and control. So we want to address that head on. We want to talk a little bit more about Copilot, the security and controls. And after we do the dry stuff and talking about Copilot and security, I want to dive right into some of the highest leverage tips and tricks that I'm working with people on right now. And then we want to roll some of those tips and tricks into a little bit more targeted specifically for the finance teams that's spending a lot of their time in Excel. And specifically, the finance teams, they need to have the trust and the reliabilities in the numbers that they're seeing AI generate for them. And then as Scott mentioned, we're going to do a little bit of a wrap up in a QA. I do want to leave some time for some questions. There's usually a couple of really good questions in each session. So just a very little bit about Endeavor4. As Scott mentioned, we are a full stack Microsoft consultancy that is ERP, CRM, the data layer, the technology layer. That includes Business Central, F&O, also known as FSCM, Microsoft Great Plains, CRM, Power Platform, data, and very happy to add AI into that mix as well. Endeavor is serving over 1,000 mid-market customers across North America. Many of the names that I saw on the attendee list today, I've recognized them from working with you over the last 9 years. What that tells me is Endeavor4 is already working with you at your ERP and the CRM layer within your company. We've got a good handle on the processes and what makes the Microsoft stack work. And that's fundamental to our AI practice is we built that on top of that existing trust and the data access that we're fortunate enough to have with the companies. I want to talk just a little bit about how I'm seeing the AI journey for clients right now. The four main pillars, the road posts, if you will, on the AI journey. Some clients are at the beginning. They're AI curious, they're hearing about it, they've got people that may be starting to use it in their organization, but they're kind of at the readiness stage where the first pillar is to really get the company itself, the executive, the C-level engaged, start to build out a roadmap, begin to collect opportunities within your company that AI can be applicable to for better, faster, quicker. Once the readiness stage has been reached, then there is training, foundations training. This is to teach you what this tool can do, how you can use this tool, begin to surface quick wins, and how we can actually bring AI to bear in the first day, in the first hour to begin to make a difference in your companies. And then from that readiness and from the training, we very quickly get into the data level, the data readiness and your infrastructure around AI. Any of you that have spent some time with AI know that it is the prompting and it's the context that's the key to everything. To scale that up at an enterprise level, and you do need to spend some time thinking about your overall data readiness. And then the fourth pillar is all the rage right now. You're hearing AI agents everywhere. That is an incredible tool that Microsoft has given to us. So the ability to build agents, deploy, and manage them is another key pillar. And before we dive into the what is Microsoft, I'll just check in with Scott to see if any early questions from the first couple of slides.
Nope, I think we're good. The four pillars, I think, really lay it out. And, yes, some clients may want to jump from one to the next, to jump into that, the proof of concept for the sexy agents. But as you and I were discussing offline, it really is, you need to found everything in that strategy.
Exactly.
Continue on. Thank you, sir.
Good stuff. So Copilot, God love Microsoft, but they've sprinkled Copilot over a lot of things, and that is by design. There is a method to the madness, but Microsoft Copilot is not technically a AI, a large language model, a foundational model of itself. It has AI built into it, but more properly, Microsoft Copilot is Microsoft's AI layer that stretches across Outlook, Teams, Word, Excel, SharePoint, D365, and the Microsoft Copilot app itself. But Copilot is not the AI. Copilot is actually the orchestration layer that lives within your content. It's inside your tenant. It's behind your security perimeter, and it primarily surfaces in three areas for you. The traditional Copilot chat that looks an awful lot like the Chat GPT or the Gemini or the Grok chat interfaces. You will see Copilot living in apps, the buttons inside of Word, Excel, Outlook, and Teams. So they're surfacing Copilot in each one of those apps. And then the third surface, when you get into agents, begins with the agents themselves in Copilot Studio. But I do want to kind of just reinforce that Copilot itself is not the AI. It's the facilitator, it's the coordinator layer that is the intermediary between your people, your data, and the artificial intelligence layer that's doing all of the synthesis. And that's a very important point for the people that are security conscious, and we're going to cover that more in a slide in a moment. But let's talk about what Copilot is not. In this context, Copilot is not a search engine. It's not a database. It's not a place where you go to upload things. It is an orchestration layer that helps synthesize your data, not a database. It's not a public chatbot. The prompts and the responses that you're engaging with Copilot stay within your tenant. It's not being released up to the broader public internet. It's not autonomous. Autonomy begins to live. But the basic Copilot that we're going to show today, it doesn't do anything until a human prompts it, and certainly should not be going out unless a human is verifying it. Some of the other things that Copilot is not, it's not a replacement for business intelligence and reporting or core ERP reporting or workflow automation. As I begin to work with clients, some of the AI opportunities that we're surfacing are actually much closer to a report or a automation that we need to put in place. The last bullet point is the most important, is Copilot is not a replacement for your people. This is an augment for them. It helps them with some of the real tedious jobs that they have to do on a daily basis. And I love this comment that it removes toil, not judgment. Within our own organization, with the consultants that we're working with, the golden rule is Copilot and AI will generate version 1. It's the human that clicks send on the email that's version 2. You need to stand behind what you send. You need to have read it. You need to make sure that it's right. I mentioned a little bit about the surfaces where you'll actually use Copilot. It's worth reinforcing that you'll see Copilot in a standalone chat that you can access through copilot.microsoft.com. And in that chat, it is crossing all the tenant boundaries across data for you. It's SharePoint, it's OneDrive, it's Teams, it's Outlook, emails, but it is able to synthesize across your data layer in Microsoft. You'll also see Copilot in the apps of Word, Excel, Outlook, Teams, PowerPoints. I'm going to show you an example in some future slides. You will also see Copilot, the Copilot icon, begin to show up in the business applications like Dynamics 365, Business Central, FSCM, and the core CRM product. And then as we get further along, the agents in the Copilot Studio are going to become more and more prevalent, I think, in our world. So these are the 4 places you're going to see Copilot begin to surface. I'll talk just a little bit about licensing without to belabor the point, but there are 2 flavors of Copilot. The first one is a Copilot chat. It's a free tier, and that is a very intelligent AI. It will answer generic questions, but it does not have access to your tenant data. It does not have access to all of your work product. It is just a very generic AI. The Microsoft 365 Copilot, emphasizing the M365 portion of that, that's actually the add-on license that you can get with your usual Office license. And that's what unlocks the full Copilot capability, both the chat itself and in the other Microsoft applications. Copilot and Dynamics 365, the ERP and the CRM products, that's actually bundled with your current D365 user licenses. So there is no harm, no foul when you're in Business Central or CRM. When you see the Copilot icon, it's bundled with that user license. And just a quick heads up to everyone is that Microsoft is going to be introducing a fairly radical change here very shortly with the Copilot agents, and specifically in Copilot Studio. They are going to be moving those Copilot Studio agents to a token-based pay for usage, the amount of tokens and processing that's going on with the agents. That's a topic all to itself, but it's certainly something to keep in mind for you, those of you that are beginning your custom agent build. So Scott, we've hit a little bit of a break there. Any early questions or comments?
Nope, we're good. And yeah, thanks for bringing up the agents and the tokens. We're starting to see that with some of the embedded stuff that's coming with Dynamics, with the latest April 2026 Wave 1 releases.
So let's dig into the question that everybody is asking about is, fundamentally, if you boil the question down, is my data secure? Is it being shared with everybody else in the world when I upload it? And is my data being used to train the next generation of AI? And the answer within the Copilot world is no. The biggest differentiator that Copilot has is it is living within your Microsoft service boundary. It means that your data and your files and your emails and everything is not leaving your Microsoft boundary. You're not attaching it and sending it up to the cloud. You're not worried that that attachment is going to be used elsewhere. And I can't stress this enough that Copilot lives within your Microsoft permissions that you already have. If a user has permissions to see something, Copilot has permissions to see that same thing. If that user that's prompting Copilot does not have permissions for a SharePoint folder or was not CC'd on an email or an email directed to them, it cannot see it. It does not have a master key to your tenant. It is completely bound by the permissions that the user that's driving it has. And that's completely different from the other AI models that are out there. Copilot is working within your data. A little bit of a note about Copilot surfacing something that's inappropriate. What I am seeing is that these are pre-existing permission problems that have always been there. It's not Copilot surfacing something that it should not be seeing. It's something that was shared to that user or to a user group already. It could have been shared there for weeks or months, but nobody really knew about it unless you were browsing to go find it or specifically looking for it. With Copilot's ability to search your enterprise data, any gaps or holes that you have in your permissions can be surfaced very, very quickly. This is certainly something worth to be aware of. A quick little tip that I'm giving the clients right now is if you're uncertain about it, try red teaming it right out of the gate. Literally know where your files and folders are for HR, for payroll, and for financial data, and try to get Copilot to see that. And it will not do it. It will come back to you and say, sorry, I do not have permissions for that folder. I'm not allowed to share that data with you. But the red teaming is always a really good exercise. Point it specifically towards a file and see if it will respond back to you. I mentioned that everything stays within your tenant. And by that, I mean your prompts, the responses that you get from Copilot, and all the data that you're grounding in that chat stays completely within the M365 Microsoft service boundary. It does not use your data. It does not use your prompts. It does not use the responses to train foundational models. You're already covered with your licensing agreement with Microsoft. No further action is required. The four concrete controls that Copilot does follow or have in place is it is sensitive to and working within the Microsoft purview for data. It will block sensitive prompts. Again, this is something I've tried to red team it. It's finely tuned so that it will be sensitive for not suitable at work conversations, even things like criticism of coworkers and colleagues. You just cannot get Copilot to say a bad thing about your clients or your coworkers. It will actively push back and resist you for that. Copilot is aware of and bounded by the sensitivity labels, the auto labeling, the confidentiality, all of the purview and permission controls that Microsoft puts in place. Copilot is bound by that. Restricted SharePoint sites and excluded HR, legal, and mergers and acquisition from grounding. That's going to be a function of your SharePoint permissions. And everything can be logged and audited through Purview. The interactions are traceable. I want to stress the oversharing problem that we are beginning to see. SharePoint has been out in the world in OneDrive, and those files have been in organizations for a long time. And where I'm seeing a couple of instances of where an everyone label had been given to a SharePoint site that nobody remembers granting a long time ago. Most users wouldn't even know that it's there unless they were browsing and looking for that specific folder. The answer is, though, is that Copilot will find it very, very quickly. The old OneDrive, anyone with this link that those were shared that were meant to be temporary, they do live on, and you will need to be aware of them. My recommendation would be, this is not a reason to delay or to avoid Copilot. This is the new world. This is coming fast and furious. What you need to look at is making the cleanup and making the data sanitization part of your rollout plan. First step is to red team it and go looking for the obvious ones. Second one would be to use the Microsoft tools to do an evaluation of your security posture. It will do a pretty good job of telling you where you may be oversharing. And I know I've thrown a lot at everybody just with the security model, so I'll stop and give Scott a chance to see if there's any questions.
I don't see any questions yet. If anyone wants to use the Q&A in Teams, you're welcome to. If you use the chat, then everyone does see your question, but that also is a perfectly fine approach. And, back to Kevin's 4 pillars. With the different stages, or pillar 1 to pillar 2 to pillar 3 to pillar 4. It's that AI readiness in pillar 1, foundations, training, quick wins, building your knowledge in pillar 2. Pillar 3, which is that third stage around data readiness, infrastructure. That's where a lot of the security comes in, making sure that you're have the right controls in place. And then you get into that stage 4, pillar 4, which is, let's build some apps, let's build some agents, let's start uncovering some of those additional productivity boosts that you can get across your organization. One last point is just reiterating that Copilot's not an old school application you get on a CD-ROM or a floppy disk. This is a subscription that's named user. You cannot share Copilot. Copilot's allocated to an individual as a named user, and that named user exists within your Microsoft tenant, and that's where all the permissions. And back to that starting, this is Team Microsoft. So we are able to control the security, the access to Teams, PowerPoint, SharePoint Online, Dynamics 365, Enterprise, Mid-Market, CRM, all the pieces together, and the communications that are going between all your team members within your organization.
Thanks for the reinforcement, Scott. Now that we've talked a little bit about what Copilot is, the security posture, I want to switch it up a little bit and move into a little bit more practical 4 or 5 tips and tricks, and they're going to feed into a couple of the other slides as we progress. In the training that I do, I always start here with tip number 1, the proper prompt framework. And I boiled this down over the last 3 years to thinking in terms of 4 sentences that you give to AI when you start to prompt it. And the 4 sentences are based on the RAAC model, RAAC. The very first thing that you want to tell Copilot is what role you are expecting it to play. The analogy that I use with people is that Copilot has been trained on all the publicly available information that was surfaced on the internet as of July or October of last year. When you tell it that you're a CFO level finance analyst, it's really going to hyperfixate on that role, and you're going to find a much tighter response that you get back for having just declared the role. The running joke is start all your prompts with, you are the world's greatest senior CFO level finance analyst. You'll laugh, but that world's greatest is just a little trick for you to remember to put that as your first sentence. The second sentence needs to be the action that you're asking AI to take, whether it's summarize, whether it's generate, whether a report, or it's analyze something, or draft, or respond. You give the AI the action that you want it to take. The third sentence is actually the most important one. The second A, is for the audience. If you tell AI who it is responding for, it will do an incredible job in really dialing in. The example is if you tell it that this is for my CEO or this is for a new user. If it's for a CEO, it's going to slip into that mindset. It's going to give you the 3 bullets under 150 words because we all know that CFOs don't tend to read that very long. My apologies to David, my CEO, if he's on the call. But if you tell it that it's a new user, it's going to change remarkably its response to focus on the needs of a new user for this response. And then finally, the C at the end is the context. This is where you say, here is everything you need to know. And from that, you're copying and pasting in snippets of information. You might be attaching an email. You might be giving it a file, or you just might be doing a brain dump of everything that's in your head or in your notebook. The way that looks in practice is you are the world's greatest senior CFO level analyst. The action is, I want you to generate this report. The audience is for my CEO. Here is everything you need to know. Attached is the financial reports. Attached is our analyst reports. And if you give that prompt to AI, I guarantee you that you will get a better answer. As you read across the internet on prompting, you'll find that this 4-sentence pattern is repeated everywhere. Different people will use different orders. I just chose to standardize on the RAAC format, and it's become my daily driver. Having said all of that, that is how a human writes a prompt. I want to show you something very practical and tactical, and I'm going to flip over now into the M360, or the Copilot chat. For those of you that are using Copilot, you're probably used to looking at this screen where you have the input, the work in the web. And by the way, a quick little tip up here. This button says auto. This is where you can choose the model. 75 or 80% of the work that you do, you'll be fine to use auto. If you're giving it an Excel file, a PDF, or a big Word file, you should get into the habit of enabling the think deeper. It invokes the reasoning functionality of the AI, and it does a better job with files, Excel specifically. So auto is your daily driver, but if you're giving it an Excel file or you've got a really complex prompt that you're running, enable the think deeper. But specifically to the prompting, I could sit here and I could write my prompt, you are the world's greatest blah, 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 and you could do things like that. There is a pre-built agent that Microsoft is offering to us. It's called a prompt coach, and this is certainly worth everyone paying attention and enabling this prompt coach. How to get this prompt coach? You click on New Agent, it will take you to the build an agent. If you type in prompt coach, my apologies, not new agent. I meant to say all agents. Strike what I said. So click on all agents, type in prompt coach. You will see the prompt coach come up in the list. If you click on it, you will just need to click on the enable or open button. And when you do, this will be a permanent Copilot agent called prompt coach that is there and available for you. And this is where the dirty little secret for all my clients listening and all the consultants that I work with is I don't write my big complex prompts myself any longer. My first thought is to go to the prompt coach, and all you have to do is I need a prompt that helps me understand segregation of duties in BC. By the way, Copilot does not care much about spelling. I'm a horrible typist, and it always seems to know what I mean as opposed to getting stuck on the misspelled words. So when you start the prompt coach with a very basic prompt like that, which is, hey, I need help with this, it's going to usually ask you a couple of different questions to get oriented. So this first one is a good clarifying questions. When I say BC, do I mean Business Central or British Columbia? Oh, look at that. I have an option down here. I mean D365 Business Central, and we're going to send that.
Don't even have to type it.
The question and answers that the prompt coach comes back with you are really incredibly helpful because you'll learn some things just about the questions that it's answering. You'll find yourself, oh, wow, I hadn't thought of that. So let's take a look at this prompt. Did you notice that the very first line that it's using is, you are a D365 Business Central functional and controls expert? Even the Copilot prompt coach is following that rule of declaring the role first. The next sentence is, explain segregation of duties. That's the action. The please cover starts to become the context that you're providing it. So typically all I would do at that point is copy and paste that, start a new chat, paste in that prompt, and suddenly I've guaranteed from a starting point of, I just want a prompt or I want to know some information about segregation of duties as functionality in Business Central, that I have a very high quality prompt. And I use this daily, multiple times per day. And I would encourage anyone that really wants to master prompting to look for the prompt coach and to begin to make it part of your daily drivers. I'll go back to my slide deck. We'll move on to the next tip. The next one is a very helpful one. It's called memory and personalization. Did you know that Copilot actually does have a memory and you can tell it to remember things? One of the first ways that I discovered that is I hate this M dash that AI seems to be using. The M dash is something I didn't even know existed until AI, but it's the long dash. So I want to tell Copilot in a new chat, I hate M dashes, and I want you to remember to never use M dashes in a response. And the key word there is remember. And again, ignoring the spelling. What we're going to see, though, is this, the memory update. And if you click over it, you can see user requests that responses never use M dashes and offer you a link to manage the memories. Its response is, I'm not going to use it in my responses going forward. I have saved this preference and will treat it as a hard constraint. Where you can see that is if you click on your user account Sorry, it's not that. It's actually here in the settings, personalization. And if you scroll to your saved memory section, should all have this turned on. If you click on manage saved memories, here is where I have some personal preferences saved for my own style of working with AI. And you'll notice the very last line that it added is Copilot should never use M dashes in responses. I have not hit the limit yet of the memory. I assume that there is one in there. But if you've got your own little personal pet peeves and tweaks that you don't like when Copilot does something, the answer is a simple, just tell it to remember not to do that any longer. There's lots of other topics under the memory and personalizations. I could probably talk for an hour about that. But if you have some questions about it, ask Copilot. It will happily answer all of your questions about what functionality that it has related to memory. Let's go on to tip number 4. This is actually my favorite one. Generative AI and Copilot specifically is wonderful for me to get a response back about a topic. But one of the biggest use cases that I'm finding for earlier adopters is just using the power of AI to do searches of your own enterprise data. And not a lot of people know this is here. So I'm going to flip back to the Copilot chat app. And if you click on search, this is where you can find content across your organization. And it's a little bit awkward to kind of show you an example of a search, but
and we are recording this, Kevin.
We are recording this, so I'm going to be very, very careful here, but I'm going to give you a prompt that you can use. Search my enterprise data and orient me on the Copilot webinar scheduled April 28th. This is a fairly safe topic. Oh, just for this one, I want to search it a little bit better. So I'm going to send this. And what's going to happen is quite incredible when I saw this the first time. A couple of things going on is here it's surfacing the enterprise data that it thinks is relevant to my search term. And in this case, it's beginning to surface a calendar invite, a PowerPoint slide deck, an email, a SharePoint file and folder location. And the point is that it's searching across all of your enterprise data to surface this. My old habit was if I wanted to find something, I had to go to Outlook, I would go to my sent folder, I would do a search for all of my emails. And then I would go browsing through SharePoint or OneDrive to find files. I would go to Teams and I would look for recent chats. What changed for me is this is now the one place that I can search all of my enterprise data using AI. The results over here start to tell you where it has searched and where it is surfacing data. And the last piece of it is getting the AI summary specifically about that topic and beginning to synthesize all of that data. And what I'm finding is this search synthesis right here is 90% of the time, this is the answer that I'm looking for, or it at least gets me oriented or grounded. And this is doing a really good job at giving me the webinar at a glance. What's the purpose and who's the audience? What is the agenda flow that we're talking about? What my role in the session, registration, materials that I'm working from, key messages, and where things stand right now. And it's grounded now in all of this data. It means that I can continue on the chat and ask follow-up questions. But this completely changes the way that I search for enterprise data within Endeavor4. It's not separate systems. I'm doing it all from one console here in Copilot. I'll move on to the next tip that I want to give you. Is the question I get asked a lot or commented on is Copilot hallucinates, and it makes things up, or it's not accurate. And if you really get into the reading a little bit, that is by design. That's a feature, not a bug. And I can go a lot deeper on that topic, but just suffice to say that it's not a known issue. It is just a feature of AI. But here's a tip that you can use. You can actually use AI against itself. So if you get an answer that sounds too good to be true, or, oh my God, that is just wonderful, I wonder if it's right, you can start to invoke Copilot and any AI, indeed, to actually be an adversarial thinker on that response. So a couple of little tips prompts that you can use is, if you get an answer that feels too good to be true or too easy, your next prompt could be things like, list the three biggest weaknesses and then rewrite it. Play devil's advocate against your own answer. 3 domain experts are going to review this, and they're going to criticize your work. I want you to anticipate their problems. Tell it to list all the assumptions and flag the weak ones. But what you're doing is you're invoking a completely different perspective of AI, and it's now looking at its own answer, and think of it like it's doing a separate independent fact check. If you're using AI, you probably already know that if you call it out on a mistake, it's very happy to say, hey, you're right, this is wonderful, thanks very much for correcting, and it will suddenly give you the right answer. This critiquing prompts will shortcut that, and it will force it to evaluate its own responses and come up better. This is an incredibly helpful one to use, and it should be part of your daily drivers in working with AI. Use it against itself. Use its power against itself. The last couple of tips that I'm going to give you are specific to Excel and specific to the next section, where we're going to get into some of the finance use cases. A lot of times I'm given a very dense Excel sheet and being asked to comment on it from an AI perspective, or perhaps just helping somebody in Excel. My favorite prompt these days is, if I'm given a big Excel sheet, first prompt is, orient and help me understand this spreadsheet first. What you're forcing Copilot to do is to look at the entire sheet, the columns, what all the columns mean, what all the rows, what all the tabs, the workbook itself. And really what it's doing is it's loading up its understanding and its knowledge about that spreadsheet first. And then both you and the Copilot AI can do a better job in responding because it has the baseline of knowledge. The second tip that I use for the finance people is create a control count for either the number of records or key totals within your spreadsheet. And then you ask it to self-check its responses against that control count and the totals. What this does is helps the AI go back and double check its answers against the control totals. And it's quite fascinating to watch it discover its own mistake and say things like, oh, I just sampled, I didn't look at all 1,300 rows in that spreadsheet. Let me go back and review all rows so that things balance. It really is quite incredible. I know I've talked a lot, so I'm going to give Scott a chance to see if there's any questions.
Thanks, Kevin. I have a comment and a question. My comment is, when we went through and committed to memory and told Copilot, here is my style, here is my writing style. I recall in one of your past training sessions that you gave internally, we can create different agents that have different writing styles or different knowledge base. So here's an agent, I am the IT expert. Here's an agent, I am the HR expert. Here's an agent, I'm the best writer for our CEO, so that you can choose the agent that you want, so you don't have to be prompting it as much for, here's my audience, here is your style. You've sort of pre-saved it as your new agent.
Yeah, That will work with agents, but it will also work with, you can set up multiple, call them personas in your memory. So you can actually have 2 or 3 personas saved in your memory, and you can invoke that memory in your prompt by saying, your response should use persona 1, which is marketing, or your response should use persona 2, which is a functional consultant. The agents is a really good idea, but you can also handle it directly within the prompt and memory itself.
Thanks, Kevin. One of the people asked, what if they don't have personalizations? Is that a licensing issue or something was turned off?
With that one, I would start with checking to make sure that your personalizations in memory is turned on, and you can check that by starting a new chat, clicking on the ellipses and settings, personalization. You want to make sure that your custom instructions are enabled and your saved memories and your chat history is enabled. That is the setting that invokes or turns on the memory, if you will. If you're not seeing these, chances are it's because you're in the standard free Copilot chat, not the M365 Copilot that's part of the paid license.
Thanks, Kevin. And one last question that came in through the chat. For the enterprise search, when you use the search button, does it include web searches, or is there any tricks to confirm where it's searching?
In that one, you can control that 2 ways. Sorry, this one is, the search is enterprise search, so it's not doing a web search. This one is pointed inward by definition.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move quickly here. We're into a little bit of a special thing here for the finance teams a little bit. And I'm going to show you 3 or 4 specific, really lightweight use cases that the finance teams that I'm working with, but I'm going to actually show you this in Excel itself. Everything that I've showed you so far had been within the Copilot chat window itself, where you're writing a prompt and you may be attaching an Excel sheet. Some of these examples for the finance team actually work much better if you actually start in the Excel sheet that you have and then invoke Copilot within the chat itself. And Copilot is not this Copilot in your browser, easy to get confused. This is the Copilot that actually lives within Excel. So what I'm going to show you is, this is a really simple example of a P&L Excel spreadsheet. I've used mocked up data. AI actually helped me create this mocked up data, but I have a tab for a P&L summary, a P&L by cost center, and then a monthly detail that has, think of it as a sub-ledger, and then it also has a headcount, budget versus actual. The prompt I'm going to use is this. Role. You're a senior FP&A analyst supporting a CFO at a mid-market industrial company. Your action is to identify the top 3 material variances by dollar impact. The audience is our CFO. The context is to use this sheet, the P&L summary, P&L by cost center, and monthly detail sheets. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy that prompt, and I'm going to start a new chat over here, paste in that prompt, and send it. Now I'm going to move ahead here a little bit for the next couple of 3 sheets that I've got. I'll show you what we have spooled up, and then we're going to come back to our first one. In this one, pardon me, this is an AR aging spreadsheet where I have the register of the invoices, the amounts. I have aging buckets in here. I have statuses of calls, who the owner is, any last action or notes. Anybody that is following up on AR has a very similar spreadsheet. I have a tab for a customer summary where it gives, total annual revenue, what the current AR is, aging buckets, and then I have a specific breakout of the aging buckets. So in this one, I have a prompt pre-built that you're a senior credit and collections analyst that's doing analysis. So let's pop that one in a new chat in this spreadsheet and send it. And I'll show you the third one. This one is an at-risk accounts where we're starting with a list of customers segmented by the tier. Are they strategic, major, or mid? What their revenue totals are, and who the internal account owner is. We have a list of open support cases for those clients, and we have an open list of our AR. And for anybody that's done the analysis, you know that the status of your open support cases are very much a driver of your accounts receivable. So in this instance, we have a role of a senior account health analyst. We're going to copy that. We're going to start a new chat directly in Excel, send that prompt. Let's go back to the first prompt and see what's going on. It has already come back with an answer here in the chat itself. The marketing program, 58,400 over budget, 39%. Understanding that's very difficult to read, what I'm going to prompt it next is create a new tab in this workbook and send it. In a moment, I'm just going to hold here because you sort of need to see this for what's going on. But it has created a new sheet for me now. Oh, I should have told it. It did exactly what I told it. It created a new tab in this workbook. Now let's be a little bit more precise and surface your analysis in this new tab.
And Kevin, while this is thinking and we're watching, is this the free version in Excel or does this require the paid version?
This is the paid version.
But now works and unlocks the power of Excel.
Yeah. Let's go back to our credit committee. This was the sheet that is the AR aging. And you'll remember the prompt that you're a senior credit and collections analyst. And we had given it the invoices list. We had given it a customer summary. We had given it the aging bucket. And what it created is its own tab. And it created this analysis dashboard. I did not create this. This did not exist in this sheet. This was created from the prompt that we gave it. Your scenario and your situation might be different, but I really did want to highlight to you today the power of using Copilot and a prompt directly in a spreadsheet to actually create tabs and to create content like this. Let's go back to our first one. It's still in the middle of building this, but it has created a tab called variance count, and it's beginning to populate. You can see it dropping in totals in here. Let's take a look at our third example. This one, again, I needed to be a little bit more specific. Create a new tab and surface this analysis in the new tab. And let's go back to our second one. For our first one, it's continuing to build. It's given us an executive summary. It's giving us our top 3 material variances. Very difficult to read unless I zoom that into 150% for you. It's giving me a monthly trajectory analysis and also a board-ready commentary and some key takeaways for the board. I know I'm moving very, very quickly there, but I just needed to illustrate to you what you can actually do with the tool that many of you have. The last thing I'm going to show you is I had mentioned that many times that I'm being given a spreadsheet that if I look at it, it's what am I looking at? This is a spreadsheet that goes over to column CJ. And how many rows does it have in it? We're up to 2,000, almost 600 rows in there. My first instinct when I get a spreadsheet like this is help me orient and understand this workbook. The word orient and understand, I found that orient word is such a key one for AI that if I send that one, I won't let it think, but what it's going to do is it's going to add a table in there, a tab in there for me, and it's going to really summarize everything for me and give me things like the total record counts, number of unique users, start date and end range, usage by application. So it turns out this spreadsheet is metrics and telemetry are on our own usage of Copilot. My point being here, though, that if you're starting with a spreadsheet and you don't know what's in it and therefore you don't know where to prompt, start with help me orient and understand this spreadsheet, because you'll get something like this as a result. This workbook contains Copilot usage analytics for your organization, and it will do a lovely summarize for you, including listing off all the columns and doing a pre-built summary. My apologies for moving so quickly. I've got a lot of great material here, but this kind of covers the basic finance team's use cases that I wanted to educate you on. Scott, I'm going to stop there just to see if any questions before we wrap up.
Nope, there was a pricing question, and I'm typing that in the chat, and we can obviously talk offline about pricing for each of the individuals. I think we're good to keep going, just in the interest of time.
All right. So a quick recap is Copilot is a synthesis engine in the tenant. The thing to keep in mind that it's working and living and surfacing data that's in your tenant. It's not leaving it. Security is respecting all of your permissions and your purview. We've given you some helpful tips about prompting. The prompt coach is going to be a big one for you, how you can tweak your memory and the enterprise search and using AI to critique itself. I would urge everyone to kind of take these as 5 daily drivers back. You will find that this helps you a great deal. And I do want to get a little bit philosophical here with this slide. We are at an inflection point with AI. Over the last 2 years, it was kind of a cool tool. And what I spent a lot of time asking is, what can we do? What does Copilot do? And the reality is it's getting so good that it can pretty much do anything and everything, assuming you give it the proper prompting and the proper context. The shift that's happening is stop thinking about it in terms of a list of features that you're trying to match your own needs with the features. What you need to start thinking about is how can AI help me do my job better and faster? And that's a very subtle mindset shift, but this is the shift, is you need to begin to think of everything through that new lens of how can AI help me do my job better? Because chances are it can do some of big pieces of your work. Scott, that's everything that I wanted to cover today. Is there anything else from a slide perspective that you want me to bounce on?
Yeah, go back to the previous slide and I'll read that off and I'll go through the next slide. So we're basically into the wrap up. Thank you everyone for attending. A little bit more about Endeavor4 and then we'll get into next steps. Please don't leave before the next steps, just so you know what's going on. And for those watching the recording, thank you. Sorry you missed the presentation and some of the better notes that may have been involved. So at Endeavor4, we're here to help you get the most out of your Microsoft applications, helping them work smarter and work harder for you. Copilot's one of those key ones. Obviously, follow us online, and thank you for being a client. This was a client-only presentation, and we definitely appreciate your business. Next slide, Kevin. For those that are new to Endeavor or would like just a recap, we're getting close to about 1,200 clients now. 33 years in business, offices across Canada and the US, and all of the certifications that you'd want to provide the safety and depth and breadth of working with Copilot, working with Microsoft Dynamics, working with Power Platform. Next slide. As part of our rebrand, You may have seen versions of this slide in the past from past presentations. These are 4 high-level lines of business: AI and advisory, helping you get more out of your systems, helping you, whether it's AI or process automation, warehousing, transformation, logistics, you name it. We have a lot of depth across 1,200 clients, and we're now up to 170 consultants. So there's a lot of brain power within Endeavor, and those are supporting our enterprise clients and our mid-market and SMB clients. And we have a variety of specialty applications, specialty by industries, as well as specialty by some reusable IP and the intellectual property that helps further accelerate adoption, further accelerate deeper dives and predictability within implementation projects. Next slide, Kevin. Here's some next steps. So if you don't, obviously we're going to be providing a follow-up email and PDF, have a recording, and we're going to ask Copilot to create us a summary of today's presentation for you with the tips and tricks and some other links that go out to help you with sort of a self-service as you continue to mature. Looking at the tactical, if you don't have the paid subscription version of Microsoft 365 Copilot, if you're an existing client, you can talk to our licensing team, just email them. If you don't have a cloud tenant, you're not using Microsoft 365, you're not in, Endeavor's not providing additional add-ons within a cloud environment. So you're not on Business Central, you're not on CRM, reach out to Jerry. So basically those that are on Dynamics GP, if you haven't made any steps to the cloud, there are some hoops we'll have to jump through to make sure that you can have the proper tenants set up to be able to access Microsoft 365 and other Office 365, Microsoft 365. That's where the E3, E5 business premiums come in. Built-in functions for Business Central, CRM, and other components that we've showed today and that are continuing to emerge in Microsoft's deployment schedule. Some are in general availability, some are in preview. We'll have some self-directed learning. There's a lot of information out online. We'll provide some of those links there. And then if you need some hand-holding, obviously our support team would be a billable time, but can help walk you through some of those components. The real part that's going to get the most value is those 4 pillars. And Kevin, I'll have you go back to slide 5 momentarily, just not quite yet. Okay, slide 5 right now. The 4 pillars. These are what you need to accomplish. Whether you have our help or not, you need to accomplish these. Obviously, we are here to help you get the most of your systems, and Kevin and team are here to facilitate these. So if you don't have C-level engagement and executive sponsorship, you cannot succeed long-term with AI. You can do some smaller proof of concepts and jump and go in reverse order, but really the best success is following these 4 stages, these 4 pillars. You need to have good data. You need to have the controls. You need to have the safety. You need to create some KPIs. You need to have a strategy on what are you trying to accomplish. Then we can get into building those pieces. If you want to start in reverse and you already have some of these in-house, then obviously we can assist there. So reply to tomorrow's email. I can provide access into Kevin and his team and work from there. Fantastic. Right on a few minutes over. Kevin, thank you. Questions for, why don't we do one last question, put you on the spot, Kevin.
Well, no, I'll tell you what, Scott, I've actually got a little bit of an air pocket here, so I'll stay on for another 15 minutes and answer any questions that somebody might have that if I can help a little bit.
Fantastic. Appreciate that, Kevin. What a great guy. Amy said, thank you. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to getting home with our finance team. Appreciate the compliments, Amy. Can you, question that I have, Kevin, we talked about Microsoft 365 Copilot, and that acknowledging there are different Copilots out there. There's the free version. There's the version that's built into Business Central, into finance and supply chain, built into um, CRM, customer service, sales, Power Platform. But then there's also Copilot Studio. What is Copilot Studio in contrast to everything we saw today?
Yeah, Copilot Studio is the platform where you're actually building agents to deploy. And when you build an agent in Copilot Studio, there's some incredible stuff they're doing in there. The first thing that's going to be coming on stream here within the next 6 weeks is Microsoft is going to be giving an Entra ID to the agents themselves. The Entra ID, for those technical people, that's the actual identity in the Microsoft world. So they're beginning to give the agents an identity, and they're also giving them permission levels, the same types of permission levels that humans and people are having. Third thing that's happening with the agents is they're beginning to sell them and price them based on the usage of AI tokens and compute that the agents are using in the background. When you build an agent, you're fundamentally giving it a prompt. You're giving it a source of data and knowledge that it has access to. You're giving it a series of tools that can be connectors to external systems, or there can be tools for things like sending emails or receiving emails. All of that type of control is happening within the Copilot Studio. And then you can begin to layer in the Power Automate, the Power Platform functionality to begin to stitch everything together so that you don't just have one standalone agent. Now you have an agent as part of a workflow and as part of a process. And it's an incredibly powerful tool that Microsoft is giving us for the new age.
Thanks, Kevin. I don't see any other questions, so I have another one. You've been one of our pioneers and leaders for the last 3 years, and obviously Copilot's been continuing to emerge and mature month over month, quarter over quarter. Are we halfway? So what you've seen in the past 3 years, are we halfway? Is there more to come? What do you envision?
Yeah. Not only are we not halfway, we're not even 10% of the way there. This is the only product ever built in human history that is mathematically certainty guaranteed that the next version, the next iteration of it is going to be better than the previous one. It's just math now. It is volume of context that you're giving it. They are learning more and more about how to train and tune agents. But here's the big thing. What's happening now is it's not always the human that is prompting the build of the next agent and giving it ideas to be better and to find that next 10% efficiency. AI is now beginning to actually improve the previous generation of AI. And what that means is if you think that the last 3 years has been fast in terms of change, we're accelerating because AI is now beginning to improve the next iterations and versions of AI. AI is beginning to work with itself, talk to itself, and the pace of change is just going to get faster.
Thank you.
Thank you is one thing. That's the one where people start saying, oh, what about Terminator is the next word that I hear coming out of everybody's mouth. Are we at the Terminator moment? The answer is no, but it is going to improve at a faster pace.
We had a past conversation on, is AI going to make the ERP and CRM go away? And my understanding of the answer was ERP is debits and credits and finite. It's not a predictability. Getting data into the ERP can be AI and getting data out of the ERP can be AI, but the core engine's really not going to go away. Similar with CRM. How do you comment on that?
Yeah, my own view on that is exactly that, Scott, is when you get right down to AI, there's a famous saying that AI is probabilistic and that reporting is deterministic. And by that, I mean, when you run a report, there's an algorithm that's taking an input, running it through math, and it's designed to give you a mathematical output. It's determining what the answer is. AI works completely different. It's a lot of theory about how it's built, but AI is built on probabilities. In other words, yeah, that's probably the answer. That's why there is a yawning gulf between the Power BI and the reporting that's being done. And AI is not the place to build your financial reports. It's a wonderful tool for analyzing it, synthesizing it, but if you need two numbers to add together 100% reliably, AI is not going to be your go-to tool. You're going to be using deterministic tools like Power BI and like Excel. AI as a probabilistic engine is going to be where you'll synthesize and make observations on that.
Thanks, Kevin. And what about on the order entry side or scanning stuff, the OCR type things? What are your thoughts on AI for those?
Yeah, that's the really exciting part for me right now. For those of you that are spending some time in Business Central, with each release, Microsoft is very quickly building up the agent stack within Business Central. But the point I'm going to make about that is Microsoft is building those agents to live within and only within the Business Central application itself. The agents that they're creating and allowing you to build yourself can only do things within Business Central, literally down to the task level, inquiry level, run a report, or analyze a screen that it sees. But the critical point is that agent is going to live only within Business Central. It's only going to do things within Business Central. But that ecosystem, that environment that it's working in is so structured that it means that AI has a wealth of near data that it's able to ground itself in and surface back for you.
Great. Thank you for that. I don't see any other questions. Any final remarks, Kevin, either in the tips and tricks or the strategy side on what people should do between now and September?
Yeah.
Next 3 to 6 months.
Well, I'm going to give you two things. Is my famous response right now amongst our team is after I kind of get people started and comfortable with AI and with prompting, and particularly the 4 prompting sentences to give, is I push back and send back more responses now that's basically politely, don't ask me, ask AI directly. And there's still a little bit of a fear, uncertainty, doubt, hesitation for people. There's a little bit of that, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to ask AI this question? So the first thing I'm going to suggest is you can't break it. It's not an application that you can break. And you can engage with it with the questions you have about it, especially if you write a prompt that says, you are the world's greatest Copilot training consultant. I need you to do a web search to refresh all of your knowledge about what your current capabilities are, but I want to use you to help train me. And if you give it that prompt, it will happily be a Copilot trainer for you. And it means that all these questions about how do I and can I and is it safe to or how does this work, you actually start asking the AI and Copilot itself. And it's a real big mind shift to stop, kind of reflexively looking for an expert human. You can get the first couple layers of questions answered by engaging directly with Copilot itself. And it's really fun to watch that unlock with people when they realize, oh, you mean I can ask it and it will tell me how to use it. They have to sit with that a couple of days, but I love the next week when they come back and they knock on my door and it's like, oh, I just had the greatest interaction. I didn't know if I could do this, but I asked Copilot. It pointed me in the right direction and I got a great answer out the other part. You've got to find those wins. You've got to normalize it. You've got to break down the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. because the humans are in the loop. The humans are the ones that are driving it and shaping it.
Fantastic. That was a perfect close, Kevin, and that really tees into some of the self-service links and follow-ups that we're going to be sharing to everyone that attended tomorrow. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Good luck with all of your AI efforts. And again, back to those next steps. Reach out to Endeavor if you don't have Microsoft Copilot yet and you need to buy licenses. And if you don't have a strategy, you don't have execution, you don't have safety, you don't have the infrastructure, if you're missing those 4 pillars and you need to get in touch with Kevin and team, we're here to help. So thanks, everyone.
So thanks all.